You're about to watch an interview with Bud Malmstrom. If you don't know Bud Malmstrom, he's been in the Bujinkan for almost 50 years. He's an ex-Marine, a Harley-Davidson rider, and an overall great guy. Bud was always very kind to me while I was coming up in the art, and I will always remember him for that, and I'm very thankful for him and his friendship. While I was editing the video, I always found myself drawn to different parts of the video. I think you'll find some very valuable information or some gems, or as Bud might call them, Budisms, in this interview that can help you with your training or just give you some different perspectives on your training as you continue your journey. Enjoy. You are like a legend in the Bujinkan community, and but you have a really fond place in my memory because I remember when I first started the Bujinkan, and I had some troubles.
When did you start in the
Oh
Bujinkan?
man, it was, let's see, I went to
Early
Japan
80s or something, wasn't
it
it?
was the 80s, yeah, it was the
Yeah.
80s, late 80s.
Was
And
it? Okay.
I came to your dojo in Atlanta
Yeah.
once, and I was, all torn what to do, and then you said, "Hey, just you can come train if you want." And
Yeah.
that kindness was, I still remember it to this day, you know.
Well, I appreciate it. I have much respect and admiration for you as well.
Man, I'm just following your footsteps. And
Well,
then another thing that people think, I then went to Stone Mountain once to
yeah.
do a small workshop with some people, and you
Yeah,
showed
yeah,
up.
yeah, with Randy Sessions.
That's right, it was Randy Sessions,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you showed up,
Yeah.
and you participated,
Yeah.
and and I mean, I was like, wow, how humbling, and you encouraged me there. You said, keep going, and
Yeah.
again, that that's truly
Well,
one things that really kept me going, I think.
your taijutsu is some of the best. Mine is uh, gone downhill the older I get, and and I have found that the 50s weren't too bad, the 60s weren't too bad, but now that I'm 73, 70 hit me pretty hard,
70
and
hit you hard, huh?
yeah, my body started closing down on me a little bit, but I'm still training, still doing seminars. I have some friends down in Houston, Jonathan Penn.
Yeah, I know Jonathan. I know him
I,
well.
I
Yeah.
just lost his name. Yeah, and a lot of Mark Harper's guys,
Yep. Yep.
and so anyway, those guys, I go down and train with them every once in a while. They did a seminar in 2000 that we called OFB, and it was the old farts of the Bujinkan. But now we call it old friends of the Bujinkan, to be more
There you
politically
go.
correct.
There you go.
And I was at the very first one, and there was a bunch of us, Brent DeMoville and Joe Adrian's, a lot of
Oh,
guys,
wow.
and uh, so being from Atlanta, I missed 18 of them or something. But now that I've been living in Texas since 2019, I try to go to all of them, and this year is the 25th anniversary, so I'm looking forward to it. And but yeah, I go down there probably, I don't know, 2 or 3, 4 times a year and train with those guys, because there's nobody up here uh, that I want to train with, because the people up here, I think there's some people in Dallas, but man, that's over an hour away, and it's hard for people to get to me or me to get to them. But if I start a training group here in Cleburne, Texas, the big town of 25,000 people, I'd have to start with, this is Ichimonji no Kamae, and here's how you do a forward roll, and I just can't stand that anymore. So uh, it's one of the reasons I closed my dojo, is I just got so tired of teaching the same old thing. And once I closed my dojo, I grew 10 years worth in 2 years, because I started focusing on what I need, not what the students need. And man, what a difference. I mean, I started seeing things that I'd never noticed before. And watching Hatsumi Sensei's footwork, I don't watch so much the Quest videos because he's being a martial artist, but I watched like Taikai's, where he's just being Hatsumi Sensei, and he's just being marvelous and inspirational. I watch his footwork, and I just watch from his waist down and watch what he's doing, and I learned so much in that next 2 years. It was worth doing. It was worth doing, because I got to focus on me and what I needed rather than what they needed. And it was worth it.
That's fantastic. You
Yeah.
know, whenever I go anywhere, I I make a disclaimer. I said, "I'm not teaching anything. I'm
Yeah.
just trying to catch sensei now." And so, I don't know if that's the right way to do it, but I'm like, I don't care about teaching you guys. I mean, not that I don't care, but I mean, I think it's better if we all just work on what we have to work on. And I think
Yes.
sensei was doing that all the time too, you know?
Well, there's two or three things I want to point out about that message that Hatsumi Sensei has told to us that maybe we missed or maybe we didn't. Back in 1980, when Steve was over there, Mr. Hayes was over there training, uh, Hatsumi Sensei one day after class said, "Okay, go home. I'm not teaching anymore." So, Stephen thought it was the end of the class. So he went home and he came back the next Thursday. And Sensei said, "What are you doing here?" He was all dressed up, ready to go out. Stephen says, "Oh, there's no training tonight." He goes, "No, I told you I'm not teaching anymore. Go home, go back to America. I'm not teaching anymore." Well, the the thing that it took me about 10 years to get out of that story is I don't think he's taught since then. He's led classes and he's been very inspirational in the way that he moves and the way that he talks and so forth. But how many times, Paul, has he walked over to you and said, "Don't put your foot there, put it here"? He doesn't. He doesn't teach. And so I'm I have told my students, Hatsumi Sensei is not much of a teacher. He's a hell of a martial artist. And if you watch him, you can be inspired by him, like looking at a Picasso painting and you get inspired by it, but you can't, he's not going to teach you personally. He's just not going to do it. And uh, I think, and at one of the last Taikais we had in Atlanta, we were talking, we were at a Bohemian restaurant. And I said, because I was trying to think of something cool to ask him, I said, "If you could say one thing to American students, what would it be?" And without hesitation, he said, "Understand that training is a process and where you are in that process." And I said, "Oh, wow, that's great. I'll start passing that out. That's great." And we went on talking about something else. And about 3 minutes later, I went, "Wait a minute. What you mean is training is a process, and we shouldn't try to move like you. We should try to move like us, just better than what we did yesterday." And he looked at me like I was a child and went, "Hi." Like, that's what I told you. But it hit me so hard that after that, I was never afraid to do a technique in front of Hatsumi Sensei because I didn't have to live up to what he just showed. I had to live up to what I could do. And that was it. And so I think that's a really important thing to get across to people is that don't 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 try to don't try to be like sensei. Don't try to be sensei. When you go back to your teachings, whether it's in Europe or whether it's in the United States or whatever, don't show a technique and then go, "Okay, play." That's Hatsumi Sensei's word. You don't get to do that. You're not Hatsumi Sensei. So quit trying to be Hatsumi Sensei and just do what you do. And so I think it's really, really important that you pay attention to where you are and what you need. Because my students would ask me, "What do I need to work on? You haven't told me what I need to, what do I need to work on?" I would just go, "What are you worst at?" "Well, I could do some, I don't think I'm very good with the Kyoketsu Shoge. Work on that. That's what you need to work on." Because it's like a table. If one leg is shorter than the others, you got to make that leg so the table's balanced. So whatever you're bad at, that's what you need to work on. And that's true in life or with taijutsu or anything.
Those are words to live by.
Yeah.
That's all I do right now is try to find all my weak points, and you don't like to find them. I mean, we all have them. I mean, I'm like,
Yeah.
damn, I have to work on this because I'm so bad at it. That's all I do nowadays is try to find where I need to work.
I think that's what warriors do. I think that's what people who are interested and are trying to get better as human beings, that's what they do. Whether it's in the martial arts or whether it's with being a man or with being a human being, that's what you do. You have to look at where you're weak and get better at that.
100% agree.
Yeah.
So, but how did you find like the Bujinkan? I mean, I just to cover these, we don't have to get too deep into the woods, but how did
Yeah.
you get to the Bujinkan?
Well, I'd gotten out of the Marines and I was going to college at night. I was working 6 days a week, and I started going to college 2 and 3 nights a week. And uh, I just needed something physical to do. You know, I was in gymnastics as a teenager. So I looked into gymnastics, unless there are no 24-year-old gymnastic programs, they're for 24-year-olds. If you want to roll around on the mat with 12-year-old girls, and you got it made. But so I thought, well, you know, maybe I'll try martial arts or something, karate or something, because it's kind of like gymnastics. Maybe I'll get into that. So I asked Bonnie about it, and she said, I don't know. All the guys in high school that were martial artists and karate guys, they were bullies, and I don't want you to become that. I said, okay, all right. So I'm driving. I just kind of put it out of my mind, and I'm driving down Lawrenceville Highway in Tucker, Georgia, and I see a sign out of the corner of my eye that says Oriental Arts, and my car just pulled it. I mean, it just whipped in there. I mean, it didn't say ninjutsu. It just said Oriental Arts, and I had no idea what that was, and I didn't know what a ninja was. When I walked into that, I, he said, "Well, I get 2 or 3. It's Steve Hayes's dojo, so he's teaching Tong Sudo or something." So I'm in the middle of the room, doing, hitting the air, and I was a Marine, it was not what I wanted to do. So I saw these guys over in the corner. They were hitting each other with sticks and throwing each other down and rolling. And, I thought, and so I'm punching over here, but I'm watching these guys. And after, I don't know, 2 or 3 classes, I said, Mr. Hayes, is there any way I could do that over there? No, no, that's real, and you have to be a brown belt in some other system before I put you over there, because that's real. Okay. All right. So I came back the next class, and I'm still watching over there, and I'm punching, and I said, you sure I can't get over doing that? And he said, no, no. And I said, Mr. Hayes, if I'm not doing that next week, I'm not coming back. He said, well, we'll give you a try. So I guess he needed the student. But so the next week I was over there. Well, being from gymnastics, I was doing rolls and cartwheels and handsprings and everything the first night, because I'd already done that in my youth. And, you could hear people in line, hey, the new kid's pretty good, And I knew I had found what it was I was looking for. And it was like a little marble found a hole, and it fit me, and I've been doing it ever since.
Wow. And what
Yeah,
that was 70s?
that was 76, June
76.
of 76. So this year it'll be 49 years.
Wow. Wow.
That's a long time. I hadn't thought about that. That's a long time.
I remember 76 because they came out with those bicentennial coins or something back then.
Yeah, that's right.
I was like, I don't know, I was very young. I was like 9.
Yeah. Well, I was 24. Yeah.
Wow, wow, wow. So now, when did you meet Hatsumi Sensei for the first time?
1981. 81? I think it was 81. He actually came to the United States. Steve came back in 1980. Stephen came back from Japan, moved back to the United States in 80, and he invited Hatsumi Sensei to come over, and we were going to do Hatsumi Sensei was going to do a seminar. We had 90 people, and the seminar was going to be 3 days, but he was here for 10. So we had a week with him that we could train before the seminar. And he broke my ribs the first day.
No way. No way. Tell me
Yeah.
a little bit about this. So you had a week before
Yeah.
the seminar, he flies in. What does he do?
Yep.
What's he doing?
And well, we're meeting him, and I'm trying to onegashimasu, all of the right things to say. And I asked him, what is the most powerful fist which is the most powerful fist? And he said something like Tai Ski.
Mm-hmm,
I was like,
mm-hmm.
body fist. I don't understand. What can I? He goes, okay, punch. And then he looks away, and I'm
Right.
like waiting for him to look at me. So anyway, I just hauled off and punched him. Well, he ducked, he lowered his body, and then he jumped and hit me with his shoulder right in my ribs. And I flew back and I left my feet and I landed on my shoulder blades. And I'm laying there going, uh, 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 and he looks down and goes, don't you? Which is, his don't you understand? And I went, I got a knife. And he goes, very good, and walks off. He didn't cut me no slack the rest of the training. I mean, that day I had to shut the door with my other hand, the car door with my other hand. It was rough. But but everything was rougher back then. I mean, if I could change anything about today, I would try to make the training rougher because
Yeah, yeah.
because since the since 2000, I've done a lot of training with SWAT teams and special forces teams and Navy SEAL teams and things like that. And I can tell you that what is taught today about taking a person's balance, and you're looking for that sweet spot, or you got to get their arm shoulder lock in a certain way so that you can take them down, doesn't cut it with these guys. You either got to make it work, or it's not, or are they, it doesn't take but a couple of techniques that don't work, they're not listening to you. They're done. Because if your techniques work, they're glued in. I mean, they're listening to you, they're asking good questions, or because they know they will need this tomorrow. We're people in the dojo that are musicians and pharmacists and teachers and whatever, they hope they never use it. But these guys, they know they're going to need it tomorrow. And so they're glued in. I went to Croatia one time to do a seminar, and we had 60 people or so, 70. Little did I know that 40 of them were Secret Service for the president of Croatia. So I'm teaching, and I'm getting questions like, yeah, but how do you take out a sentry without any noise? And I'm thinking, okay, now, all right, these guys know, okay, let's talk about this, okay. And so I would show them and tell them and all that kind of thing, and ended up, these guys set up a meeting with the president of Croatia, and we did a little 7 or 8 minute demo, and I ended up giving him an honorary black belt in ninjutsu. And we just sat down, had a beer, and we got to talk to the president of Croatia. But it was the Secret Service guys that allowed that to happen and made that happen. And it was a really very uh, unexpected and very, I was thrilled. And but I've done more of that kind of training than I have in the dojo kind of training, and it changes my whole perspective of the training itself, because I have to look at whatever doesn't work, I throw out and I try not to teach anymore. If it does work, I teach it and I repeat it, and I try to use it. And okay, they attack you from the back, I still want you to do an omotegaku. Okay, they attack you from there. How do you make that work? How do you do it in the dojo where you take the guy's balance and you do a little elbow jab here, and that distracts him? No, how do you make this work? And that's been eye-opening to me as well, because it does. You just have to have a different mindset. I mean, all of the stuff that we learn works, but things that I've learned over the years, and I hate to take over the conversation, but you remind me of so much. Through the 80s and early 90s, when I would go to Japan, Ishizuka and Somea and Shiraishi Sensei, all of they would always tell me, no, 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 the Kihon's not for fighting. I go, yeah, yeah, okay. Yeah, but it's not for fighting. I'm thinking, well, if it's not for fighting, what are we doing it for? I mean, wait a minute, I can't go back to my students and tell them, oh, this isn't fighting. I mean, what? They didn't finish the sentence. What they meant was the Kihon Happo is not to teach you how to fight. It's to teach you how to move your body. Oh God! Well, once I got that, well, then the Kihon Happo took on a whole new, area of expertise for me as well. And when Hatsumi Sensei was at a Taikai, he was in my living room with Nagato and several other guys.
That's awesome. He was just in your living room. That's
Oh
great.
yeah, he came to the house every time he came to Atlanta, and it was great. We just put him in a van and bring him out there, and we had a Sean Garrity, who was one of my students, was a chef, and so we'd have him come out in his little white thing, and he'd cook up everything for us, and it was great. But I asked him, I said, did Takamatsu ever tell you why he chose these 8 techniques to be the basic techniques? I mean, out of the millions of techniques that there are out there, why just these 8? And when he would say, okay, you can handle 96, 97, 98% of everything that is thrown at you if you really have these 8 techniques. I'm thinking, man, that's a lot to say, especially if you got 3 striking techniques out of all of them. Man, so I got to investigate, so I started. This is the time that I didn't have a school and I'm working on me, and I looked at it and I thought, okay, if we have Ichimochi kata, you block with the right hand, the lead hand, you hit with the backhand while stepping and turning your body. So you're creating power by turning the spine, using one hand to deflect, another hand to strike. Okay, then you go Jumonji. Okay, you're not really stepping. You might shift a little bit, but you're deflecting with the front hand and going straight in and then getting out of there. Okay, so now we've got an outside hit, a deflection with the front hand, an outside hit, a deflection with the front hand, and a straight on hit. And then we do Hicho, where it's a punch to the lower belly or to a kick to the lower belly. And you use body, with the Jumonji, it's straight in hip movement horizontally along the ground. It's not twisting the spine, it's horizontal movement. Okay, so now you got 2 ways of generating power. Okay, so now with Hicho, you have this block or deflection, is what I want to call them, because they're not really blocks, they're deflections. With one hand, but it's down. So it's a lower block, whether it's a punch or a kick, doesn't matter. Lower block while you drop your weight to generate power. And then you kick with your leg while you're coming up using that kind of power, and then hitting inside out. So now we've got an outside in hit, a straight in hit, inside out hit. We've learned how to kick. We've learned how to block low punches. We've learned how to block or deflect upper punches. So you've learned how to use both hands to deflect and to well, Silzer. You've learned how to kick. You've learned how to block with both hands. You've learned how to hit from the outside, inside, straight on. You learned how to generate power by twisting your spine, moving straight forward, or dropping your spine and coming up. That's probably 96% of what you're going to run into. Okay. So I explained that to Hatsumi Sensei and these guys sitting in the living room. And I said, so this is what Bud has come up with. It's like Buddhism, except there's no H. It's just
Buddhisms.
So I said, this is what I think he might have been thinking. And Hatsumi Sensei said, I don't think there's anybody in the room that didn't learn something from what you said. But you could do it like this. And then he gets up and he does his off the wall UFO kind of stuff. And I thought to myself, you idiot, quit trying to teach the Grandmaster things. You idiot. So he put me in my place again,
Isn't that funny? Sensei always had a way of, in a humorous way sometimes too.
Yes,
Like I said, he got up in this weird way and did all these things of dropping wisdom on you like this. And these are
yes,
the stories I think are really funny. Thank you
yeah,
for sharing that. So he got up and
yeah,
started just like doing crazy stuff, huh?
yeah, he's hysterical. Yeah, oh, I mean, he was showing, a way to do, uh, Jumonji with a kick. I mean, it was just it just went way off the, out of the box,
That's
out of the box.
amazing. That's
Yeah, it
amazing.
was great. It was great.
And so when he landed, he was ready to go. I mean, was he
Oh,
jet
yeah.
lagged at all, or he was just like, "Oh, let's go," or?
Didn't seem to be. What we would do is we would pick him up, take him to dinner, and then take him to the hotel. And then the next day we would start, doing whatever sightseeing he wanted, or bring him out to the house and let him relax out at the house, away from the hotel, so nobody could get to him, uh, or whatever he wanted to do. So
Mhm.
it was very. We were just very relaxed with him. Of course, Marco and Bonnie were, sisters. I mean, they were super close, and so we had an interpreter, the lady that translates my letters and stuff to Hatsumi senseis, and she would, she and Bonnie and Marco would get together and they would go shopping, and they would come back holding each other's arms with bags of stuff. I mean, Marco would see a pair of sunglasses she liked, so she'd buy five, so for her friends at home,
Right, right.
it was a good time.
Wow, that's amazing. So you met Sensei uh several times in America before you ever came to Japan. I mean, you've come to Japan, right?
Yeah, I went to I met him in 81, and then I went to Japan in 83, and every year or so after that, through
Mhm,
the 90s, or every other year through the, I'd go every year and then miss a year, whatever it
mhm,
was. But
mhm,
yeah,
mhm.
numerous times to Japan. Yeah.
So that first time with Sensei was quite memorable, or do you have what's I mean, I know it's hard to like just to try to ask people these memorable moments, right? But I mean, you must have a lot as you were there with him back in the early days, right?
Yes. And one of the things that made me, with Hatsumi Sensei, where you're, was two events. That first meeting in 1981 was, he was talking about how a sword won't cut you if it's not your intent for it to cut you. And I'm like, how do you accidentally cut yourself then? Wait a minute. And so he said, I'll show you. So he has Stephen go get his live blade that he bought in Japan. I mean, it's an old, sharp blade. And he takes it out of the thing, and he grabs it right above the suba, grabs the blade right above the suba, and then has Steve tie a handkerchief really tight around his hand. And then he takes his hand off the blade, didn't cut him. Now you could see the line where the blade edge was, but it didn't cut him. So I'm thinking, man, I need to learn that trick. That's pretty cool, because I didn't have the understanding of energy channeling yet. And so the next night, there were two or three other people that weren't there the first night, and he's talking about this same thing about it, doesn't hurt you unless you intend it to. And the people were, like me, doing the RCA dog thing, and so he said, "Look, go get that sword again. We'll do it again." And so I'm thinking, okay, I'm gonna watch how he does this. So I go from crossed Indian legged to Seiza, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm gonna watch and see how he does it this time. I'm gonna watch. So he draws the blade out of the scabbard and sticks it right on my cheek. Boom.
Ah.
And I knew enough not to pull away or not. And he's pulling like this, and my skin is pulling. My skin is doing this while he's dragging the blade across my cheek. And I'm just sitting there thinking, well, even if he cuts me, it's going to be a great scar to talk about. I mean, so I just sat there and didn't move. And when he was done, he said, I went like this and there was no blood. And I looked at him and he says, "Don't you?" I said, "What got an eye?" He goes, "Very good." and but I knew it wasn't a trick then, because I wasn't part of the trick. and it worked even on me. So I knew something deeper to this than what I know.
So he put it on your face. Did he tie it to your face, or did he? There was a message
No,
I didn't. No,
no,
just put.
he just pressed it against my face and pulled it, but
Wow,
it was pressing it hard enough that it was horizontal, pressing it hard enough that it was pulling my skin.
wow. And
It was
did,
pulling my. It wasn't just doing this. It was pulling my skin. So I don't know. At the time. Now, since that time, I have walked on fire. So I understand. Okay, there is energy channeling that you can do that will maybe not let this cut you. Okay, but I realize now it's not a trick. It's truth that I wasn't able to see at the time. I thought it was a trick. And so uh,
wow.
those were times when at first meeting that I thought, and I remember saying to myself, I want to learn what he knows. I'm hooked. I want to get what he understands. And so that's I've been kind of pursuing that since then.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that would make you wanna chase it, right? I mean, that's kind of
Yeah.
how I felt. And I didn't get the sword pulled across my face, and I still was still want to
Well,
chase it.
he's just amazing. I mean, there's
Yeah.
I have always told people that you're never happier than when you're in his presence. And he doesn't have to be doing martial arts. He just has to be sitting there. And whenever I'm around him, whether it was in the hotel room at the Omni Hotel or in my living room or at training hall in Japan, I just felt okay. I felt at peace. I felt like this is where I'm supposed to be. That just safe, I guess. I just felt safe. And I don't. I have not felt that way around any other person. And there's something about him that makes you at ease,
Mm.
which is
It,
also something we all need to aspire to be, to make those around us feel at ease and safe.
ah, man, that's a great point.
Yeah, because he does. I think there's something about him that um, I, I don't know if if it's because he doesn't take himself seriously, because he's all the time, these sexual innuendos and all that. He,
Yeah.
but most martial artists are, I'm tough and I'm bad. And but Hatsumi Sensei is just, and I don't mean this disrespectfully, but he's just a dude. He's just a guy. And and it is amazing how he just makes you feel a part of him, a part of his. I don't know. It's just it's the only way I can say it is I just feel safe and calm. It's just I feel good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, what you're talking about here is really, I think, amazing because when you look at the Gokui or the like inner teachings of our art, right up here on my wall here, I have one of them that I wrote a long time ago. It says, "The heart of the warrior cherishes peace," right?
Yes.
And Sensei would always say that he would just write like Bushinwa, like the warrior heart peace, right? And
Right.
peace can also mean harmony, like you said. You felt safe, you felt one with him, like the harmony, so that
Exactly.
he's creating that. He's doing what our Gokui said, and that's why I really love the calligraphy. I mean to talk a lot, but that's why I love the calligraphy. And one day maybe I can. You probably got a bunch of stuff from Sensei, but
Yeah, I do.
I'll give you one too, Bufu Wa, just
Yeah,
the
that's right.
Bushinwa,
Great.
because what you're
Great.
talking about is
Yeah.
exactly one of our the Gokui and
Well,
yeah.
he said, I guess in the 80s, I haven't heard him say it in a while, but he said martial arts is not a matter of winning, it's a matter of living. And again, in the 80s, what I understood that to be was it's not a matter of winning the fight, it's a matter of surviving all of the physical toe to toe hook and jab things that you come in contact with. And that's not what he meant at all. What he meant was martial arts is not a matter of how many people you can beat up. It's a matter of how you conduct yourself in your life. And that's the matter of living that he's talking about.
Pause. just a short pause to say thank you for joining us today. I know there's a lot of content out there now on YouTube, and you have many choices of where and when to spend your time. I just wanted to say thank you for spending some time with us today and watching this video. If you did like the video, I'd like to ask you to hit that thumbs up button so that it'll help other people find the channel. Consider subscribing to the channel if you like this kind of content, and leave a comment below. Who would you like to see interviewed? I would like to interview many people who have had direct access or direct experience with Hatsumi Sensei. And I'm also interested in all types of people from the Bujinkan. You don't have to be a Dai Shihan for 50 years in the Bujinkan to have some really good stories, some really good information that could help other people. So let me know in the comments below who you would like to see interviewed, or if you'd like to be interviewed. I'm very interested in meeting everybody. And if you'd like to help support the channel monetarily, you can do so at the PayPal links below in the show notes. Again, thanks for joining us. Yeah.
I don't know if it's the, I mean, I know everything is made of rhythm, made of sine waves. And I don't know if his energy just allows everyone, not just me, but allows everyone to feel safe. I don't know how to say it, just safe and peaceful.
And a little bit joyful, maybe even sometimes. Right.
Yeah, definitely joyful. Because
Right.
because it just doesn't, you don't have anything to worry about. You're wherever you are with him, that's where you're supposed to be.
That's amazing. I think that's just amazing. I think we also strive for that as martial artists and practitioners of the Bujinkan, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that instead of trying to be martial artists, we ought to just try to be better people. And I know that when you go to a party or something, when I'd go to Bonnie's office parties, all you had to do was say something about being a cop or being a martial artist, and they go, "Oh, wow, that's really interesting. Excuse me, I need to get a drink." And they're gone, and they never came back. And there's something about that is off-putting to people, and so you have to not demean it. Just it's just a job like everybody else, and you just try to make people feel safe and secure around you, and see how that goes.
Can you tell us a bit about those first like taikais back then? You said it was a bit more rough and rough and tumble. Were there anything that stuck out besides your ribs being broken? I mean, there are probably some other stories.
Yeah, he I was training with him at one of the outdoor Shadows of Iga 3-day outdoor festivals things, and I was his uke, and he grabbed my thumb and twisted it like this and had me dancing on my toes, because he had my thumb, and I'm dancing and tapping, and I'm and he's just walking around, like nothing's happening, and he let go, and man, what it didn't show is that, yes, he was bending my thumb like this, but it didn't show that he twirled it first and then bent it, ended up breaking my thumb. So
Oh, he
now,
broke your thumb. He broke your
yeah,
thumb.
now my thumb doesn't see how this one bends. This one doesn't bend that way anymore.
But hold it up a little bit more so I can see it. Okay.
Oh,
Can
I'm
you hold it?
sorry. See, this
That
one
one bends,
bends
yeah,
right here
nicely.
at
Yeah,
this
yeah,
joint.
I see it.
This one.
Oh yeah, that one's kind of straight, isn't it?
Yeah, that one doesn't bend that way. So, but that's okay, because uh, you learn, you get hurt, and you learn to just get through it. I mean, we had 3 days of training to do, and either you miss the training or you suck it up. And so you just sucked it up, and you learn to train hurt. And I think that's part of the training. I mean, when you're doing ninja stuff, you're not always going to be in perfect health. So you have to, you know, uh,
Whether you're sick or not, or you
yeah,
got to keep training, right?
yeah, whether you're injured or whatever, you not only training, but doing whatever is required of a ninja to do. I mean,
Yeah,
whatever that might be.
that's right. That's right. And living life. There's a funny
Yeah,
story. Maybe I can just share it with you real quickly.
sure.
I was in a motorcycle accident in America
Ooh. Mm.
when I visited a friend of mine, back in the day. And long story short, like the next day I had to go back to Japan. And so I went back to Japan on this airplane with my leg stuck out with a hole, basically a big gunshot wound in my knee, because it
Oh
was it was
man.
it was basically like had ripped out a bunch of flesh. So, anyways, I had a really bad injury, and they were like, "Yeah, you shouldn't walk in it for like a year. Maybe you won't walk that normally again. I don't know." But
Wow.
I got back to Japan, and like 3 days later, I was in the dojo, and I had on a big, like a white brace over my gi pants, so people could see I was injured.
Yeah.
Obviously, because I was hobbling and in severe pain. But anyways, I was in the dojo, and so sensei comes up to me, doesn't even like recognize or the acknowledge the cast on it. And he's like, "So Paul, throw a punch." And I mean, I can barely. I'm hobbling, right? I'm just
Yeah.
hobbling, making it through the class, and I'm like, "Really?" And says, "Yeah, throw the punch." So I throw a punch as best I can. I kid you not, he gets out of the way and kicks the shit out of my knee, the one that's in the brace. And I don't remember. I almost blacked out. I just saw stars in blackness. And when I came to, he was gone. He just walked off. And so so that that was a crazy
Oh
story.
man, that's yeah, but that's him. And
Yeah,
and you learned that, oh, even though I was hurt, my knee can take a punch. I
it
mean,
can
it
it
can,
can take
yeah,
a punch.
I can survive. Yeah. But man, that's a tough lesson, huh?
Yeah, that was a interesting lesson for sure.
Yeah.
Um, so, beyond like we talked a little bit about the physical here as well, but uh, how did the Bujinkan like affect your life? I mean, I mean, you're still doing it, so it has to had an immense impact, I would imagine.
Um, I when I got out of the Marine Corps, I wanted to go to the University of Alabama and become a lawyer. And so that's how far off of that trajectory that ninjutsu took me. Um, because or the Bujinkan took me because back then in the 80s, when Steve came back from Japan, it was called Togakureiryu,
Yeah,
and it wasn't the Bujinkan. The Bujinkan
yeah,
came around 82, 83, 84.
mm,
Sensei created this thing called the Bujinkan. So when I started this, when I found this art, it like I told you, it was like a marble finding a perfect hole. It made me whole. I knew instinctively this is what I need as a human being. This is what I need. And the more I was around Hatsumi Sensei, and the more I learned about Sanmitsu and energy channeling, and it's the one thing people ask me, why are you still doing ninjutsu? And I tell people, if it didn't have the philosophy, if it didn't have the energy channeling, if it didn't have the meditation, if it didn't have the mind science, I guess I might be doing Krav Maga, because that's kind of where I live. Just down to the meat of how you get this done. And it wouldn't be Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, because Brazilian Jiu Jitsu is great. I mean, it's great so long as you're not on a Rocky Mountain hillside in Afghanistan with 70 pounds of gear on your back. It doesn't work worth a shit. I mean, worth a darn there. But Krav Maga does. That's what it's designed for. So that's probably what I'd be doing, except that I have learned to control. I have healed myself. I had, I don't know if you know how much of this you know, but I had degenerated discs in my back. Uh,
oh, that's tough. Yeah,
three discs in my lower back were gone. The
gone.
yeah,
Wow.
the top one was about a 16th of an inch. The second one was less than that, and the third one on the X-ray I couldn't even see. So I was told that you're going to have to get surgery and get those discs replaced, and then you're going to have to fuse your back and all that. And I thought, man, I'm everything I do. I was making weapons at the time, Scorpion Enterprise. Everything I do is physical. I got to get up and move around. I can't. And so I remember going home from the doctor's office and laying in bed thinking, what am I going to do? And I remember myself laying in bed, and I hear myself say, no, hell, I'm not. And I get up and I start doing exercises and stuff and all that. And then I realized Well, Hatsumi Sensei's a bone doctor. So I wrote him a very detailed what was wrong, had it translated, sent it to him. He sent back. I had his letter back translated, and what he said was, "This is the natural cure for your problem." He didn't say, you might try this. He said, "This is the natural cure for your problem." And he gave me dietary changes, massage therapy, heating pads, hanging upside down, uh, things. 6 months, I went back to that same doctor and I said, "I'd like you to x-ray me again. I want to see how I'm doing." And he goes, "Well, I really don't want to do that because your body doesn't need x-rays." And I said, "I'm going to give somebody some money for an x-ray. Do you want that or not?" He said, "Okay." So he did it, and all three of the discs were a quarter an inch like they were supposed to be. But the doctor kept saying, "You can't regenerate those because there's not enough blood flow." And I said, "Okay." Hatsumi Sensei said, "This is the natural cure for your problem." Well, I believed Hatsumi Sensei instead of the doctor, and I have no trouble with my lower back since.
Wow.
So 5 years later, 6 years later, I'm training in black belt class, and we do Yoko Nagare the way it's supposed to be done, and tore the ACL in my right knee. I mean, you heard it go, and people from across the dojo looked around because I mean it popped. And I'm laying on the ground. And then I realized how undignified that looked. So I made the pain go away, just, let it relax and let it go out. And Danny Petruccelli is the guy that did the technique on me. And he goes, "Buddy, you okay? You okay?" And I go, "No, I think it's gone. I think it's gone." He goes, "Are you sure you're okay?" I said, "Danny, you ain't listening." Because he didn't want that responsibility. But anyway, I stood up on it and I put my weight on it, and I thought, well, maybe it's okay. But then when I shifted a little bit, it was like two 2x4 standing on it. It was gone. So I went to the orthopedic, and he said, "Yeah, it's a good thing you don't play football because this would be a career-ending injury. Not, hey, we could put you back together and you might be able to get back in the game." He said, "Your career would be over." And I said, "Oh, well, it's a good thing I don't play football." He says, "You into martial arts?" I said, "Yep." He goes, "You ever thought about quitting?"
Ooh.
I said, "Every day." and so anyway, they gave me one of those football braces that bends at the knee and all that. And one of my students was a transmission mechanic, and he had cut his finger, the middle finger, down to the bone on a bandsaw, just
Oof.
and he kept trying to get it to heal, but it kept getting infected, and he couldn't work because he was on such painkillers. He couldn't work. So he asked me, "Whatever you did to your back, can you do that on my finger and make it heal?" I said, "Brian, look, it works for me. I mean, I don't know if this is going to work for you because it's personal power that, I don't know." I said, "We'll try." So we kicked everybody out of the dojo on a Saturday, and we sat down and put on some Kitaro kind of music. And I was walking him through what I did, what I meditated on for my lower back. And I was just walking him through what I did. And I thought, well, since I'm sitting here, I might as well work on my knee. 20 minutes later, I got up. I've never had any trouble with that knee. I haven't ever worn the brace again. I do martial arts. I play basketball, volleyball, whatever. This knee, I tore the meniscus in the left knee, but my right knee has never given me a lick of trouble since that meditation. Well, some people say, well, that was God's work. Great. Whatever you want to call it, my knee didn't need surgery, and it doesn't hurt anymore after a snapped ACL. So I don't care what we call it. All I know is 20 minutes after, I mean, after doing this meditation, I don't have that problem anymore. So if it wasn't for things like that, I'd be doing Krav Maga. But because this martial art encourages you to have your own energy, your own personal energy, your own ability to take care of your environment and your health and your body, then I don't know any other martial art that does that. I just don't. That now there may be some in Tai Chi or something like that, but I don't know that Tai Chi is aggressive enough for what I want either. because again, I want to be able to show people how to kill sentries silently. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, you gotta do what you gotta do, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Gotta do what you
So,
gotta do.
but there's a difference between, I think Hatsumi Sensei has always said a ninja must have a correct heart. And by that, he did not mean a goody two shoes, soft, loving everybody. He doesn't mean that. He means a correct heart. If it's time to rock and roll, then you need to be able to rock and roll and not have remorse about it. If it's time to look your wife in the face and go, I love you dearly, and be able to do that without any hesitation or shyness or invulnerability or whatever, then you have the heart to do that too. So there's a lot of guys out there that are tough, mean, but they can't look their brother in the face or their wife in the face and go, I love you, with sincerity and mean it. And that's the correct heart of the ninja. That to me is why you would use the physical techniques of ninjutsu, is because you do love those people. Not because you're a bully, but because you do love those people enough to say to them, I love you, and then act upon it if that's necessary. And so it's I don't know, it's just a different art. I've never found anything like it. And I'm just so grateful that whatever it was that slapped my car into that parking lot in 1976, because it wasn't me. I mean, I didn't even Oriental Arts. What's that? But my car ended up going into that parking lot. And I just think it was the Bujin going, hey, you need to be over here. You don't need to be studying accounting in college. You need to be over here. And Bujin swept me into the parking lot, and here I am.
Well, I mean, I'm certainly happy that it did.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Because
And
I have friends like you all over the world. I mean, I tell people there's probably not a country I can go to in Europe that if I got in trouble, I wouldn't have somebody I could call. I mean, that's when you talk about, a redneck from Texas that, has, it's really amazing. It's really amazing that this little pipsqueak has people who care about him enough that if I called him, they'd know my name. It's just amazing.
the art is amazing, and I think you've touched on some points that give me shivers a couple times here, man. Because I totally feel the same way, and that's why I'm so happy to be able to chat with you today and get your story out there a
Yeah.
little bit.
Yeah. I always love talking to you because I think that you have, because of your openness and your excitability about the art, you just have an energy about you that just can't get enough. That you have an insight into Hatsumi Sensei and the art, I think very few people have. And I don't have the language, the Japanese language, to know so much about the Japanese people. But as far as the people that are, that I can speak to, that I can understand, I think you have a special, I guess, understanding of more than most. And it doesn't matter how long they've been training or how little they've been training. I think you just get it somehow.
I don't know if that's true or not, but I do
Well, it's
appreciate.
the way I feel. So I mean, whether it's true or not, that's the way
Yeah.
I feel. And the way out of all of the people that
Well,
I've met, I think you have a better understanding of it than most.
thank you. I'm just trying to follow sensei like you and
Yeah.
become a better human being, a better martial artist, a better husband, a better brother, a better person in the world, a better uncle,
Yeah.
a son, just trying to be all those things to, how many people I can to help out. Like you said, the correct heart. We say Mago Koro, right? I'm
Yep.
writing that all the time. I'm always writing that. Mago Koro. It's the first thing.
Yeah.
Before I start my classes, I always say Mago Koro ni Masare. And what you got?
Is
What's
that
up
what
there?
that says?
There it is.
Yep.
That's it. See, that's why
Yep.
you're Bud, man. That's why you're the man. After
Yep.
all these years.
Out of
You
all
write-
the pictures, out of all the things that Hatsumi Sensei has written for me, that's the one I put up on the wall.
That's amazing. can I ask you just a couple more questions about,
Of course.
about your back? This is really interesting
Yeah.
because, we're all aging and we're all going through,
Right.
different challenges, right? You had your back, I have my diverticulitis I'm working on right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. My wife
And,
has that.
and so I'm changing my diet, I'm doing different
Yeah.
things. Um, I think the art gives us a certain, kinda head start that we can take our own health into our own hands at certain points.
Hmm.
I'm just curious. So hanging upside down, did you get the gravity boots and did something like that or
Yeah. Let me tell you. Um, he had me eating some little dried fish, those little minnows looking
that's
things that
yeah,
are
yeah,
little
yeah, yeah,
fish. They eat the whole guts and everything.
yeah,
They're
yeah,
real salty. He
yeah.
had me eating those. He had me eating a lot more greens for the chlorophyll. It puts oxygen in your blood. Had me massaging my back area there. And when I would go to bed, I would lay on a heating pad until I got tired of it or I'd fall asleep or whatever. And then I would hang upside down. And here's the key. And this is the part nobody else tells you. Don't do it because you have to. Don't go out and hang upside down 4 times a day because I'm going to hang upside down. I'm going to beat this thing because I'm going to hang upside. Don't do that. If you feel like hanging upside down 4 times that day, great. But you got to do it with happiness in your heart and with love in your heart and uh, and then you may skip 3 days and not do it at all. And then whenever you want to, don't make it a chore because chores are hard and they're negative. Chore by the name chore, not task, but chore is a negative. So don't do any of it with negative energy. If you do it with positive energy, positive things happen. And the way that I think about it, the way that I thought about it anyway, is you see on these scrubber bubble commercials where there's little helmeted looking guys.
Yeah,
I
scrubbing
think
away.
of those guys, I call them gremlins. And
Mm.
I think of those little gremlins, millions and billions of them in there just fixing stuff, just going crazy, just fixing stuff. And I guess in reality, it's probably white blood cells. But but uh, when I was working on my knee, I'll put my hand here so you can see it. I would relax it as much as you can, and you'll find that your foot, your leg will do that and move, or it'll want to do that and move. You're not doing it; it just does that, and that's because right here they're working on space. They're working on this, but now they need to work under here so they make you move, so that this opens up and they can work. So it's them getting you. Put your hand over here. We need more space. Move your hand. And while I'm working on it, I'm just thinking how much I love this. How much I it's like
Yeah.
I'm so proud of these little gremlins. It's like seeing your grandkid or your kid the first time on stage doing a Christmas special at school, and you're just so proud and so loving of your child that you're just full of it. Well, that's what I have to have, or what I had to have. Not so much anymore. Now I can kind of think about it and it goes away. But uh, I had to have that positive energy, that love, and this is maybe where love conquers all. Is that if you just okay, I'm going to heal my arm. I'm going to heal it. I'm going to heal it. Okay, we're going to. That's BS. You have to put some energy in with it. Uh, you have to love it. What I call, you just have to love it, and you just have to be positive about it and love it and know that it's going to happen. Not, it's like I know the sun's going to come up tomorrow. Can I prove it? No. I mean, but I know it, and I know that my wife loves me. That I just know it. I don't have to ask her. I just know it, and I feel good about it. And when I think about it, I get warm inside. I just think it's great. So it's that kind of feeling. That's what you have to have. And it doesn't matter about the fish. It doesn't matter about the cauliflower or the greens. It doesn't matter about the massage or warmth. if you don't have that with it, it's not going to work. For me, anyway. I'm not going to say for everybody because everybody's different. But for me, I had to have that positive, loving energy for it to make it happen.
Mm.
And it worked for
Wow.
me on two huge, what I call big events. Now you can, be working out at the gym and man, I've really tore my, I'm not tore my muscle, but I made that muscle sore. And in a thought, you can make that sore muscle go away because it's just lactic acid. You can make it go away just by saying, tired of it. I get it. I'll take it easy on that muscle. Or if my shoulders hurt me, sometimes I'll just go, okay, I got it. You don't have to tell me anymore. I got it. I'll take it easy on that shoulder. And 5 minutes later, I'm thinking, oh, it doesn't hurt anymore. Just because I said, pain, I get it. Thank you. Now leave me. You don't have to keep calling me. I got it. And that's the kind of thing that makes it go away. Well, I think I couldn't do that prior to these knee and back things, but because, and walking on fire. Once you walk on fire, that's a strange puppy right there.
Well, you got a minute to tell me about, tell us a little bit about that one as
Yeah.
well?
Well, Bonnie and me and Bonnie and a student of mine named Mike Waschuk. There was a guy up in
Mike, yeah.
Ohio, not related to Steve, but up in Ohio that was going to do a fire walking. Well, I've been wanting to do one just to see if I could, knock on wood. Well, so we're going to all pile in a car and go up there. And we get up there at 4 or 5 at night, and that we start building the bonfire to make the coals. Well, that morning, Bonnie's curling her hair. And she touched her thumb with a curling iron. Oh, and it blistered her. And she goes, I'm not going to be able to do this. And she said, the curling iron burned me. I said, but did you think the curling iron was hot? Well, yeah. And did you think that if you touched it, it would burn you? Yeah. And I said, then that's not what we're doing tonight. That's different. You expected it to, so it did. Gonna be different. Well, she went and we built the bonfire and we'd go in and we'd meditate and we'd talk about what it's going to be. And then we'd go out and as it burned down, we spread out the coals and, so it's probably 12, 14 feet long. And then we went back inside. And the last thing that this guy told us was, this fire's hot. It could burn you. You got to be careful. So, just be careful. Why are you telling us that now?
Yeah.
So we went out and I let 2 or 3, 4 people go before me. And I had a Goko, single point, anyway, single point Vajra.
Okay. Yeah.
And smash through illusion and,
Right.
my truth anyway. Because I knew that if I tried to walk on this and I couldn't, my ninjutsu teaching career is over. Because if I'm going to tell you about energy channeling and I can't channel it, we got a problem, So this was a big deal to me. And I got Bonnie and my student as a witness. So if I don't make it, it's going to be all over the world, So I'm holding this thing and we're doing what the guy suggested. And as I put my foot out right in that little place, in the ball, in that soft part of your foot, right behind the ball of your foot.
Yeah.
I felt it start to burn. And in my head, in a 100th of a second, I said, you cannot try this. You must do it. And I just took off. And I walked all the way around and I got to the other end and I'm looking back and I'm thinking, I thought, I got to try this again. It's exactly what happened when Hatsumi sensei gave me the Godon test. We were at Noguchi's dojo, and of course we're sitting around eating the oranges and everything, and I must have this look on my face because through Ishizuka, sensei says something, and then Ishizuka says, "Feels weird, doesn't it?" I said, "Yeah, I don't know what that was." I said, "I want to try this again. I don't understand it." And sensei said, "Nope, supposed to be confusing. Nope, that you only get once. Nope, that's it." But that's what that's what this walk was too. So I went back around and I let 4 or 5 other people go, and a couple of people got blisters on their feet. I mean, they got burned.
Yeah.
But I thought, I'm going to do this again. So the second time I shuffled my feet. I didn't pick them up. I just shuffled my feet, turned around before I got the end, shuffled coming back, turned around before I got the end, shuffled on the way out. And when I got out that time, I can barely breathe, you know? And so the next day we're driving home and we're at Cracker Barrel or something like that on the trip down. And Mike went to pee or something. And Bonnie and I are just sitting at the table looking out the window. And I noticed she's in as big a funk as I am because she walked on it too. So she did good.
Wow.
And I said, it feels weird, doesn't it? She goes, yeah. I said, it changes every paradigm you've ever had in your life. Because your whole life, people have told you fire is hot and you believe them. And they tell you you have to go to the doctor if you get sick and you believe them. And you have to blah, 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 and you believe them. And walking on fire proves to you that your whole life is your responsibility, not anybody else's. Nobody can make you mad. If fire doesn't burn you if you don't want it to, people can't make you mad, nor can they make you happy. So this is up to us. And we can't go back because once you learn it, you can't unlearn it. This is it. You have, from this day forward, we have to move forward with the idea that we're in charge. And that's it. That's a hell of
Wow.
a thing to learn. That's a
Wow.
hell of a thing. I'm
Wow.
telling you.
You got me. You got.
Yeah.
I've got nothing to say. I can't. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. But hey,
Well, you know, if you're doing it, if you, I know other people, some of my superiors have walked on fire, but I think they do it to be able to show others that they've done it. And to me, it was my own self improvement. I mean, this is not something that I talk about every time I go to a seminar, or this is me personally, and because I wanted to try it, I wanted to know that I had that ability, not that I want to have that ability so I can tell everybody else how great I am. I wanted to know for sure I had this kind of energy in me and control of energy that I could do this kind of thing. And it changes your life. You
wow,
can't undo it.
can't go back.
No, you can't go back because once you learn, maybe everything people tell you isn't the truth. I know that I had a friend of mine that she had arthritis in this knuckle. She had arthritis in this knuckle so bad that when she would turn on the blinker, it would hurt. And her arthritis person said, "Well, we've given you all the medicine we can give you. We need to move you up to the lowest grade of chemotherapy." And I said, "Whoa, whoa, stop!" I said, "Let me do some research. Don't do that." And so I looked around, and found some turmeric. It's like
Yeah.
curcumin,
Yeah.
turmeric and black pepper.
That's right.
And I said, "Okay, I want you to take 2 of these a day in the morning, 2 of these at night for 2 weeks. And then we're going to take 1 in the morning and 1 at night. And then later we'll take 1 at night." She took them for 2 weeks, and she could do
Wow.
that on that knuckle and it never hurt.
Wow. Inflammation. Wow. That's
And
amazing.
the doctors were, and she went back to
Chemo.
that same rheumatologist, and he said, how's the chemo stuff working out?" She goes, "Oh, I didn't take it." He said, "You didn't take it? What are you doing for your knuckle?" And she said, "Well, my friend got me on
Turmeric.
turmeric." And he goes, "Oh yeah, that stuff's great. I take it myself."
Ah.
And I thought, you're putting her on a chemical, and you take turmeric and it works, but you're not going to tell her about that. You're going to
Yeah.
get a kickback, I guess.
Yeah. Well, Bud, this has been amazing. And unfortunately, our time is coming to an end today.
Okay.
But I would love to have you back sometime because I know you have
Anytime.
a lot of these Buddhisms, as you call them, that we didn't even get to touch on. I know a lot of people have heard them, but not enough people have heard them, right? So, uh,
Well, I'm
um,
available to you anytime, and just let me know that you're interested. We'll sit down and talk.
absolutely. And is there any way people can get a hold of you?
Yeah, I have an email. It's bud.malmstrom@gmail.com.
I really appreciate your time. I mean, I learned a lot today. It was wonderful talking with you,
Yeah, same to you, Paul, as always.
and we'll do it again. Hopefully
Perfect.
sooner than later.
I would love it.